Welcome to the Derek Loudermilk Show. This is episode 409. Today's guest is Brandon Joe Williams. Today's guest, Brandon Joe Williams, is a legal researcher and teacher. And today we're going to talk about infinite money and contracts and citizenship and all kinds of different definitions of words. Magic words are used a lot in the legal arena. We're going to understand jurisdictions and the different spiritual natures of legal jurisdictions. There's a ton more, but if you want to have infinite money and be free, then this is a great show for you. Without further ado, Brandon Joe Williams.
Brandon Joe Williams, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Boy, this is going to be so much fun. And I've had so much fun watching a lot of your YouTube videos and getting started on your course. And I just want to say, I'm tremendously impressed by what you've done. And you have, for example, for the listener, he has this course where you can take it for free. And it's 36 videos, 29 hours, something like that.
39 days, 24 hours.
39 days, 24 hours. And it's all free. And it's remarkable your generosity and like what you're giving to people for free. So I just want to acknowledge you that first off. I'm just so impressed.
Thank you.
What is it when you meet someone at a party and they say, "What do you do?" How do you talk about this?
That's the funniest thing. I usually laugh just like that. It's changed many, many times how I answer that question. But now the way I answer that question, which is even funnier than any of the way I've previously described it, is I describe it as I'm someone who files lawsuits on people and then turns the lawsuits into public spectacles.
Amazing.
That's the new way that I describe what I do.
The new hook. All right.
That's the new hook. That is basically what I do, though, essentially now at this point. So what I do is I specialize in the financial arena, and I've kind of spent a lot of time understanding how it all works, financials and all that kind of stuff. And then now what I'm doing is I'm learning and I'm moving through the court systems in order to get the assistance from the court to force various companies, whether it be a utility company, which I'm currently putting a lawsuit together for, whether it be American Express, which I'm currently putting a lawsuit together for, whether it be Capital One, which I'm currently putting a lawsuit for. So I have clients that I put together lawsuits for, and then I also have a huge list of my own lawsuits that I'm working on, but I'm working on them, one at a time, obviously. And I am basically an orchestra director of lawsuits at this point, and all I do is just get financial organizations or organizations that deal with financials or my financials to simply follow the law. That's all I do.
Amazing. Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because there is a tremendous amount of ignorance involving financials and money and how it all works. And I have a lot of paid advertising. I spend about $9,000 to $12,000 a month on paid advertising, but my big master grand plan is to, spend like $100,000 or $500,000 a month on paid advertising because I want to give this information away as rapidly as possible. Because as you're already seeing, we're going through a huge transformation right now, and I think that this information is a huge part of that transformation.
So your paid advertising is to give this information away.
Yeah. And then we're also going to create a pro se litigant course, which is going to be very similar to the course you mentioned, howtowinincourt.com. I'm not going to like plagiarize this stuff or anything like that. It's a great course, highly recommended. But I'm going to be creating an audio visual presentation of a lot of that information in my own way, as well as other information that I'm coming across. There's going to be a whole section on mindset at the beginning. There's going to be basic training on the financial system in there. And it's basically going to be how to essentially activate litigation in any area of your life. Literally, it could be anything. It could be that you got a ticket from a police officer. It could be that you got a bill you can't pay. It could be anything under the sun, moon, and stars. And I'm going to teach you for free how to begin litigation, process through litigation, and then win the litigation every single time. Literally, no fail, 100%. And that course will probably be released by the end of this year. And then what we're going to do is, just like the Contract Killer course, which I pay $9,000 to $12,000 a month just to give it away, we're going to start doing paid ads to give away the Pro Se Litigating course as well. So I'll have two courses running at the same time. The problem is with my brand I have now, which is onestupidfuck.com. I have a lot of cursing, a lot of craziness, a lot of goofy me half naked photos and all sorts of things. So I find it a bit difficult to have paid advertising platforms approve my brand. But I have a second brand now, which is Williams & Williams Law Firm. And the Pro Se Litigant course is going to be on that brand. So I'm going to clean that. I'm going to have that brand be squeaky clean. And it's just going to be the Pro Se Litigant course. And then with that course, I'm going to be able to get approved on like literally every single platform. I'll be running ads on everything X, I'll be running ads on freaking, I don't know, maybe Snapchat. We'll try it. Why not? I mean, literally every single platform I want to be running ads on. And that's kind of like my big picture for the end of this year.
And again, this is just so you can give this stuff away.
Yeah.
Okay. So why are you doing this?
Because I think it's important, and I think it's going to be a huge portion of the new world. The new world is going to be where everything's free. And we have the Federal Reserve works for us and helps us pay all our bills like it's supposed to be. And either that or everything collapses and we go back to gold and silver coins, one or the other, which I'm fine with either one. I'm excited about like an artistic revolution. I think that's what's going to happen. People no longer have to work to make Federal Reserve notes, which is hilarious. I think we're going to enter into a new phase where maybe there is quite a bit of laziness for a while, maybe like 6 months or a year. Nobody's really doing much of anything. Just because it's just been such a horrible overrun on everybody for so long. And then I think after that, people are going to start, we're going to see a huge artistic renaissance. And the currency in the society isn't just going to be some sort of monetary currency. It's going to be other types of currency, such as friendship, such as camaraderie, such as community, such as, because we still need human interaction. We still need a lot of things. There are needs that a human being has that are not just money. Money has a tendency to be able to purchase all of those things to a vast degree. So when you break that cycle, I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have a renaissance, a lot of art, a lot of really cool self-expression. It's going to be sort of like the French Renaissance, kind of something like that. I think possibly it would be really cool to see architects building buildings kind of like how they built them 200-300 years ago, churches, painting walls, colored glass, ornate marble, ornate concrete structures in walls, in pillars, music, painting. Would love to see a renaissance of painting, a renaissance of sculpturing, a renaissance of writing. I think this is how we're going to do it personally.
I love it. Let me share something with you that you might find interesting. In the last few years, I've really done a lot of research in remote viewing and have a course in telepathy and remote viewing. And we did a workshop where we went 100 to 200 years into the future and had a look around. And a lot of what you're saying is what we saw. So we were basically moving forward to parallel versions of ourselves. And most of the people were doing things like qigong together in the park or playing games or holding little music festivals or, just running through the woods. And it was like some very high tech buildings, but also like very organic home sort of situation. Like everyone had their gardens and things like that. And some of the things we noticed was that everyone just had access to basically all the resources that they needed. For really big projects, there was sort of boards that you had to go to. Like if you wanted to build a spaceship or a stadium or something that cost, billions or trillions, they would be like, yeah, well, we need to sort of approve that. But for everything else, everything was allocated so everyone could have plenty. And it was just very nice. Like, oh, we figured it out. That's great. And then, so working backwards from there, I'm like, okay, what do we need to do this year in 2024? If that's what it looks like, then we got to start with the steps now. How do we, take what we currently have and make it look better and work for everyone? So that's kind of where I approach this from, in a way.
Yeah, my answer to that question is sue Amex, get an Amex Black Card that has infinite money on it that I never have to pay, and then call up Snapchat, call up Instagram, call up Facebook, Meta, call up all these people and say, I want a private ad specialist. I want someone working on my account, and I will personally negotiate. Let's say they have a policy, they only let you spend, $10,000 a day. I will fly to Silicon Valley and I will meet with them and I'll say, I want to spend more than $10,000 a day. I want to spend $400,000 a day on every single platform. And to the point where, you couldn't even take a piss without seeing my free course, 6 times in a day, basically. Like the new Coca-Cola essentially is Brandon Williams in a pickle outfit offering you a free course. You have 2 choices. You have the contract tailor course, which I'd probably redo at that point, maybe update it, and then the pro se litigant course. And then what we're going to have is a gigantic army of pro se litigants. And the pro se litigants, the purpose of the pro se litigants is they use the power of the court to force companies to follow the law. That's it. Courts want people following the law. Courts don't like people who don't follow the law. So all we're going to be doing is just assisting the courts to get what they want, which is people following the law. And in that same process, we will be creating that future. I think it's pretty simple, personally.
Thank goodness, because it can get complex when you start to, like you just said, pro se. I don't know what that means. So then you're like, oh, I better look that up. I got to understand these little pieces. So it can get complicated because you got to know what each piece is. But it's also simple.
Pro se just means litigating without an attorney. Let's keep it really simple. You might find other definitions, such as someone who represents themselves. That's a bit complicated, actually more complicated than you'd think. The real simple thing is just litigation without an attorney. That's really the simplest answer to that, the definition of that pro se litigant.
Cool. So a few months ago, I started in my mind saying the people I had come across were teaching it in a weird way, and they're like not fully disclosing all the work that they're doing. I was like, there's a better way. I'm going to create a system for this. And you've already done a lot of that work. So I don't have to copy that. But I had this term in my head. I was like, if I can get something called the infinite money system set up and have a course to teach people infinite money. And then after I met you, you put out this video that says how to get infinite money in 10 minutes. And I was like, oh yeah, we're on the same page. This is the same thing. So just real quickly, you've talked about this like more in depth in many shows, but what is infinite money?
Well, infinite money is understanding what money is. And in America, the definition of money from the Constitution, which is Article 1, Section 10, is gold and silver coins. And, the founding fathers were not very fond of paper money. Back in the day, we had things like silver and gold certificates, which were basically paper money that represented gold and silver coins. So they were pretty close to money, but they weren't necessarily exactly the definition of money. And the founding fathers didn't like that so much. They didn't like things that started to become farther and farther away from a gold and silver coin. They knew the dangers of that. They knew the dangers of banking, that kind of thing, right? And during that time period, during the 1800s, there was a lot of battling and fighting back and forth between people who were trying to create new sorts of currency and change that and complicate that and get paper currency in there and paper money approved and all that kind of thing. And then finally, they succeeded. They are very persistent at their goals. And basically, money is gold and silver coins, and what's in your pocket is not a gold or a silver coin. It is a green piece of paper called a Federal Reserve note. The word note means promissory note. The word promissory note means an unconditional promise to pay. So it's a security, sort of like a bond or a stock, something you would see on the stock market. That's essentially what those little green things are that are in your pocket. When you look up in what's called UCC3, which stands for the Uniform Commercial Code, Article 3, you find out that these things are called negotiable instruments. Negotiable means easily transferable or easy to transfer. It has nothing to do with the word negotiate or negotiation. It has to do with transferability. That's actually what that term means. The term instrument means some sort of a document or deed or contract. It's very generic. The term instrument is very, very generic. So a negotiable instrument is defined as two things, only two things in the whole world. Number one is a promissory note. Number two is a bill of exchange. So when you get bills in the mail, I got a bill I have to pay. I got to pay my bills. The word bill is a shortening for the bill of exchange, order to pay. So on the bill, it'll say pay $70.40 by September 16th. That is an unconditional order to pay, which is why it's called a bill, which means bill of exchange. So a promissory note and a bill of exchange are two types of negotiable instruments that have value. So all of your bills, it's very strange to think about this, but you can imagine every time you get a bill, they sent you a big box and it has rubber banded Federal Reserve notes around it. And it's just a big box of money. And they send it to you and they kind of make you sign a paper that's kind of superimposed over all the money and then send everything back. And it's just like kind of really goofy and weird. Those bills of exchange actually have value, no different than a Federal Reserve note. And when you learn the banking terminology and when you learn basic banking, then what you can do is you can actually write orders and you can actually write specific things and you can do specific things and you can actually claim the value of those instruments, those negotiable instruments. And when you start to do this, you realize that you're drowning in money. There's money all around you. Your rent, the lease that you signed for your rent is actually a promissory note, the actual paper itself. And it has the same monetary value of whatever it is you promised to pay. So you promised to pay your $2,200 a month for 12 months. Well, that piece of paper itself, when you sign it, it's worth $2,200 times 12. When you go and sign for a car, you say you promised to pay the car's value plus 8% interest over 5 years. Your payments are going to be $390 a month and blah, blah, blah. When you sign that, that's a promissory note that has face value. So it's actually worth the full face value of the entire loan when it's all the way completed. It's actually worth, let's say you get a car for $42,000 and the 8% at 5 years brings it up to $60,000. The note, the actual physical note that you just signed is actually worth $60,000. So there's a way that you can actually use that note in a way where when you buy a car, they actually have to pay you for and give you the car and give you money. So it just comes down to banking. And then obviously Derek's in a group that I'm in. I'm not as active in the group. But basically the direction that I'm going with all of this, the direction that I'm going exclusively with all of this is like mainline litigation, filing lawsuits, going through the court system, going through the court procedure. And the reason why is because no one has a clue how any of this works. The people who work at the bank don't have a clue. The executives don't have a clue. The senior executives don't have a clue. The payment center doesn't have a clue. Literally no one has a clue how any of this works. And when you try to educate them, oftentimes they think you're insane. So the easier step and the easier way in which to get this stuff done and get my orders to be complied with, my lawful orders, very, very lawful orders to be complied with, is through litigation. And that is where I have been focused in on and studying and researching for several months now. And I just filed my first lawsuit probably about maybe a week ago, 10 days ago. And I'm working on several more, but I have probably about 30 total that I intend on doing probably this year, at least this year. Maybe a little more than 30 this year, but for sure 30 would be great for this year. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm very excited to do so.
Well, congrats on that first one.
Yeah, thank you.
What did that feel like?
Hectic, difficult, a lot of research, a lot of, oh my God, what do we do with this? What do I put here? Obviously I have another one that I'm working on now, which is a personal one. The first one was for a client. This one's for myself. It's a lot easier. I think by the third one, it's going to get just yawn. I really do. It's a lot of work to get them going and get them all set up and get all the pre-planning done. So I think that by the third one, I think we're going to have a system worked out where it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. Just very, what do you call it? Like a machine. Yeah. I don't want to make it unthinking, but I'm trying to. It obviously reduces the amount of anxiety and fear associated with it the more you do it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of unknowns. A lot of. I just wish I was a fly on the wall when these people get these things, because these things are just, they've never ever, even the judges have never seen anything like this before. So it's just very. It's just very, very, very funny what these people are doing. They do the weirdest things. And the thing is that, when you really study the law, they don't stand a chance. I mean, literally, they don't stand a chance in hell against these things. I mean, there's nothing that they can do. I mean, literally nothing.
Do you think that the senior banking executives don't know this stuff? Or why don't people in general know this stuff?
Well, if you knew this stuff, you probably wouldn't be working there. I mean, truthfully, that's the real answer. Doesn't matter if you make $200,000 a year. I mean, who cares? That's nothing.
Who does know how this stuff works on the inside?
I have not had the pleasure or displeasure at this point, I'm not even sure, to meet anyone or talk to anyone who knows. So I don't even know, because I've never even, it's the elusive, it's the elusive Charmander that's out there somewhere in the forest,
And yet banks are still using this system in the way that they're doing. They're still.
Well, everyone uses the system. Even your utility companies use this system. Everybody uses the system. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. Even when you go to use your credit card at a credit card processing machine, and it spits out a receipt and you sign it, it's the same system. It's all the system is literally everywhere. It's one of the most prevalent systems there is. And almost nobody on the entire planet has any clue how it works. It's actually kind of hilarious.
What makes you convinced that you know how it works, but no one else does?
Well, I'm teaching it, as you know, so I'm trying to get as many people to understand it as I can, as quickly as I can. And also people become sounding boards for me as well. I teach, and then they go out and do things, and then they come back to me, and then they feed me information. We have like an informational marketplace. Essentially, it's kind of how we operate. We don't really operate through finances. We operate through information. I give you information, you give me information. There's a lot of that going on in a lot of the things that I deal in, which I find more valuable than promissory notes anyways. So I don't know. I mean, it took me 9 months before I even started speaking on the subject publicly, because I was just very, very careful on this one, because I knew it was going to be very flammable. So I waited about 9 months before I started speaking about it at all. I was studying this subject for about 9 months, every day, all day long, as much as I could, every minute of the day. And then I started speaking about it probably about last year, maybe around like September or October. So it's only been a few months. And obviously since then, my platform has had a gigantic explosion, since I started doing that. And then, like you said, about 2 weeks ago, I finally, because I had been thinking about this. It's like, in my own head, I'm thinking in my own head, like for 9 whole months. And then even the last 3 months, I was always thinking like, I really got this when I can explain it in 10 minutes. That's when I know I've got it. If I can explain it in 10 minutes and I can get it to a point where like 80% of everyone watching a 10-minute video can be like, oh my God, I get it. And they can run out and immediately take action, which is an insane I mean, even 4 months ago, I thought that was the most insane thing ever. That would never, I didn't think it would never happen, but I just knew it was going to be, it's a very tall order, right? So finally, about 2 weeks ago, I was like, I bet you I could probably do it now. So I went for it, and it's my first viral video. It's like over 300,000 views in 3 weeks.
Nice.
All over the place. So it's my first official. I've never had anything really all that viral, to be honest with you. 10, 20 or 30 or 40,000 is like a lot for me. 300,000 is just like outrageous. So, and now I actually have paid ads on Facebook to push that video out too. So that video is also on paid ads as well.
Sweet.
So I don't know. I don't think I've got all the answers. I'm still learning, but being obsessed and focused in on this particular subject for so long, and the amount of hours, the amount of digging, and the amount of pieces of information that I've seen or processed, and the amount of letters I've seen people send out, and the amount of orders and bills of exchange and promissory notes that I've seen and things that I've sent out and that kind of thing. I mean, it's definitely getting to the point now where I send out one letter to a big, huge monster financial group, and they start getting real fucking nervous. So that means I'm probably on it.
How do you know they're nervous?
Well, I had a big bank, AG Texas, and I sent them a letter for one of my clients just this last week, and they started sending us these frantic letters and these frantic long things, and it appears that this loan is distressed and blah blah blah. And like, we're still paying the loan. The loan is still being paid. It's all of the agreements and everything that was put there. It's all still there. We didn't stop paying on it. We didn't do nothing. I said, no, you're going to pay. You're not going to do a fucking thing. You're going to pay. You're going to do everything perfectly. And we're going to send this letter, and we're not going to be the one to default or anything. We're going to be sitting here with the little halo above our heads. And they just went freaking ballistic. It appears that this loan is distressed. They're sending him like multiple certified mail letters saying like, this loan is distressed and it needs to be restructured, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, we're just letting them talk, because I'm going to look and see if they say anything that I can use against them in a court of law. A lot of times it's good if if people start freaking out, getting frantic, which is something I'll teach in the course, just let them talk. Because a lot of times you can use what they're saying against them in a court of law. It's really a beautiful, if they turn into a little volcano, just let them go. Don't say anything. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, it's a lot of fun. It's the David and Goliath story. I mean, you're taking these gigantic, massive, humongous financial institutions, and you're just putting them on their knees, and they're just crying and begging for mercy. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, it really is, And once I get a few wins, and it's really going to get crazy, because then it's going to be like, people are going to start finding out who I am and what I do. And then that's when, I think there's a lot of looky-loos right now, which is fine. I understand. And I think they're just waiting for me to actually win something, So I think that's when the floodgates are going to start to really open up, personally.
Yeah. What an exciting time to be alive. Where to go next? How did you get started? What got you into this?
I had a long time ago, I still have the company. We have a landscaping company, and we had the employment and development department, which is a payroll tax governmental mafia, trespass on one of our properties, and start to interview my people, and decided that there was some weirdness there, or there was something that I wasn't paying something, or I had some kind of contract with the state or something, which I don't have. And they decided to send me some kind of a bill, and then that bill was pretty large. At the time, it was like $60,000, which at that time for us was just unbelievably high. We were still struggling just to kind of get the company off the ground, because it was my business partner's dad's company, and it sort of his mom died during that time period, and his dad kind of crashed and burned, and then the company kind of crashed and burned. So we were trying to like bring it out of almost to the graveyard, and we were trying to and just like at the last second, So during that whole time period is when I was sort of like freaking out, trying to figure out how in the heck do I combat this situation and not have the employment development department come and wipe us out. And that's when my adventure on all of this began. And then, obviously, as you know, it spreads a lot into nationality and citizenship, which is something I teach a lot on. Cars and getting around in cars and the legalities of cars and paperwork of cars. That's another main area that I teach. And then I have the negotiable instruments and money, which is those are like my three categories that I sort of specialize in at this point in time. And on my Instagram, for anyone who's interested on my Instagram, I have the 3 pinned videos, and I have a 10-minute breakdown, 10-minate super quick breakdown of all 3 of those subjects on my Instagram for anybody who would like to see those. It's also on my YouTube and stuff, but you have to like kind of look through the videos to find them. But on the Instagram, it's literally there's 3 pinned videos, and it's those 3 videos, so it's really easy to find. And I started with the nationalization and nationality and citizenship. I started there. It's really where I started, and taxation, because that citizenship and taxation. And then from there, we started getting into cars, which is probably the most complicated of the 3 sectors. And then quite a bit later is when I started getting into the negotiable instruments and stuff like that. And then I eventually really kind of had a really good grip over the nationality, citizenship, taxes one, and then I kind of graduated into the negotiable instruments more and more and more and more. And then I was into that for a long time, and then now I'm kind of more at the tail end of that, and then now we're getting into the litigation. So that's kind of like the timeline on it. And I launched my website in March 14th, 2022. So we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary here pretty soon.
So in addition to the intellectual processing of all this stuff, there's also the spiritual and emotional processing. And I find myself running up against just incredulous, like, how did I not know? Or this system has an energy of itself, and it doesn't want you to step outside the system. It's like an aggregation of all of our collective consciousness that keeps it going. And I can feel myself when I flip my thinking about something, I can feel it like trying to tug me back in. And I'm really curious to hear about your experience that you went through, probably especially in the beginning, what it was like for you to begin to realize, everything is sort of upside down.
Well, I mean, I had been involved in conspiracy theory type stuff, and I had enjoyed all that. And I had read a lot of books prior to that point. So it was nothing crazy new to me. It's definitely a much more intense, deeper level. It's a much more intimate level. At first I was just absolutely fanatically crazy-eyed, like obsessed for the first probably year. I mean, I was just like peaked, just absolutely revved to the complete maximum. Just mind, body, soul going like a trillion miles an hour, just screaming for probably like a solid 12 months.
Wow.
After that, I chilled way out for a while. It's probably like a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. And then after that, I sort of do like an 8 or 9 months on, 3 or 4 months off kind of a thing now. And I spend a lot more time just sort of like wizard musing, just walking around town, looking at people and thinking about things. And I guess feeling like a long bearded Gandalf or something. I'm not like ripping through books, with velocity, where they're burst into flames like I was the first year. The first year was intense. It was super, super intense. Now it's more calm. It's more like, okay, I get a lot of information from people. I get a lot of emails, a lot of messages. I look at a lot of things. So it's just a lot more calm. It's a lot more sure. It's a lot more confident. Been looking at this information for so long and in so many different ways. And I think that's also a huge reason why my litigation will probably be successful. You want to go in there very calm, very, very positive, very confident. And yeah, it's just, I like last year, like most of December and then a good chunk of January, I didn't really do much of anything. I mean, did some shows and stuff, and like people probably think it's like I'm still doing a lot because from their perspective, maybe I am. A couple, I'd still post every day, maybe. I don't do anything from a position of obligation. You know what I mean? It's just like something I think of, and then I want to talk about it, or I want to say it, and then I just kind of post it. And I'll go through my website every 3 or 4 months and just kind of update it or clean it up or just look over things. And but it's just not. It's just a lot more calm and a lot more controlled and a lot more structured now than it ever was. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I imagine that that's going to be a big challenge for a lot of people, more than just like learning all this stuff. There's components that for me were slightly unexpected, just resistance to work through, just to chew through it in a way,
Oh yeah. I lost everything. I lost everything. I lost my friends. I lost my groups that I was involved in. I lost everything doing this. I lost everything.
Wow.
I mean, I was kicked out of the house that I was in. I was, if I wasn't so good at what I do for work, which I'm very, very good at it, like crazy good at it, I would have been thrown out, like for sure, like absolutely no question. So yeah, it's just, I mean, totally like ass and bass my whole life. I mean, everything is gone. Everything. Where I lived, who I hung out with, who I talked to, it's all gone pretty much, to a vast degree. So it's just kind of one of those things where, I think that's a temporary thing. I think the way it works is you're very sad about that at first. But the thing is that, you're pushing down the accelerator and you're shifting your life at a breakneck speed with this stuff. I mean, it's like getting in a space shuttle. So you sort of leave everything behind to a vast degree, and there's really no way around that. I mean, it's just kind of like everyone I know and everyone I talk to, the amount of spousal issues that I hear about, it's unbelievable. The guy doing this, and then the woman doesn't get it and is freaking out, or vice versa. Actually, I hear vice versa probably more, where the woman's doing it and the guy's freaking out. I think that's just a part of what this is. And I think that if you do this, you can expect to sort of blast off for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. I think after 2 or 3 years, because I'm starting to kind of have like a little bit less of that. And people are kind of like, wow, he didn't get murdered by the CIA. After about 2 or 3 years, I think you'll start to kind of get that. But the thing is that by the time the people that you left behind start to come back into your life 2 or 3 years later, you're not really going to have any interest in really speaking with them as much. And I think that is going to be the natural progression of anyone who decides that they want to do this. It's going to be everything disappears 2 or 3 years, they come back, and then by that time you're fine with them. You're maybe not like upset with them or whatever. It's just there's just no point. There's no point to have a connection with that person anymore. It's just pointless, absolutely worthless. So that's kind of, and I think that obviously you're seeing this more and more and more, like at the Confluence event and all these events and all these things that are happening in the world now. They're just big groups that are popping up. Like even we have a group even on Facebook, and it's sort of like a new world. It's a new renaissance. It's a new world order. How about that one? It's the Great Awakening. It's the Great Enlightenment. It's the Enlightened Age. And this thing is moving so fast. There's so many of these things coming up. I can't even believe what I'm seeing every single day. I find out about something. It's like the craziest thing I've ever seen. This Confluence event, I got invited to by Alex Zek. It's wild. I mean, it's super wild. I mean, right on the website, it says confluence. It has the sections of the word, and then it breaks down the definitions of each part of the word. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what in the heck? Like, there's an integration that's occurring, an integration and an enlightenment, and it's coming from a place of peace and harmony, and it's not coming from a place of war and destroy and burn. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that's sort of like, there's just so much of it, and it's just happening so fast. It's just crazy to me. I mean, I think in the next like 2 years, we're going to be going through like a massive, massive shift. I mean, it's so soon it's going to happen. It's just moving so fast. It's like breakneck speed. And for the people that are out there that don't see it, I don't know, you should get yourself, you may want to look around a little bit, my friend, because it adds a lot of hope. It adds a lot of hope, because it's like, boy, things are happening. Boy, it's like, this is just, boy, things are, I mean, we are revving up, and there's a lot happening. It is unbelievable. And I'm really excited about it personally.
Yeah. I've heard astrology folks say that it's like the 1776 revolution energy is coming back to be sort of re-experienced in a, slightly different modern way, but it's like the same type of experience.
Yeah. I mean, that would make perfect sense. I think that's probably exactly right. I mean, I've even thought about this myself. It's sort of like, what does the human race do? The human race frees itself, and then it lets itself become more and more enslaved over the course of many, many years in order to have something to do. And it's almost like a fun cycle maybe that the human race likes to do. It likes to kind of like, we're just going to kind of go to sleep and like pretend as though we don't see all that. And then like one day it's like really bad. And then everyone kind of like, yeah, now it's like a fun thing. Now we all have to get up and do something about it. And let's all do this. It's going to be fun. I wouldn't be surprised if it's literally just the same cycle every 200 or 300 years. And we've been living that same cycle for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Well, you got cycles within cycles within cycles.
Yeah.
So many different things.
Yeah.
Tell me about the flag behind you.
Yeah. I'm pretty tired of all that's the American peacetime flag. So, a couple of 100 years ago, you had the wartime flag and you had the peacetime flag. It's already on the internet book that describes it that was written like 100 and 150 years ago. I forget. It's like a novel, and inside the novel, they talk about it. It's like a historical novel. I mean, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So, as far as we're concerned, it means the peacetime flag. So whether there is that in the past or whether it's not or whatever, doesn't really matter. If there's not, then we just made it ourselves, and that's what it is. So either way, that's what it is. Peacetime flag. It's a flag that essentially represents the original non-incorporated America and the ideals of the original non-incorporated America, where the 50 independent nation states are all like kind of like the EU. They're all different countries, and they all have senior ability to, govern themselves and police themselves, and they can even issue their own currencies, etc. And it's being at peace, and being at peace is internal tranquility as well as delivering and sharing external tranquility. Like, for example, one of the lawsuits I'm going to be doing is with the Department of Motor Vehicles. And the way I look at it is this: the Department of Motor Vehicles is a completely renegade, totally outrageous, completely off the rails, psychopathic institution. Okay, and it gives the federal corporation, which is the name for the U.S. government, which is a foreign federal corporation, a bad name, because the DMV is doing a lot of very shady things and very horrible things, and they are lying and issuing driver's licenses and all these totally things that they're doing all the time. and campaign for an election. That's kind of how I want to roll with the DMV. And I'm actually absolutely thrilled about it. And the way I look at it is the DMV is so off the rails and so renegade and so crazy and so insane that by going after them and handling them and possibly destroying them, we'll see, or unless they want to correct themselves, I'm doing the federal corporation, the Washington, D.C., a favor, because it's just a subsection of a subsection. It's the Department of Transportation, and then it's a subsection within that Department of Transportation. And to be honest with you, I don't really have a problem with the Department of Transportation. I only have a problem with the Department of Motor Vehicles. So you're at peace, even though you are on the attack, because you're attacking. The way I look at it is there's this big, huge thing or person or whatever. And it's like, I don't really have a problem with a lot of this stuff going on. I have a problem with this cancerous bulb way down here called the Department of Motor Vehicles. And I'm just going to come in and volunteer my time as a local surgeon, and I'm just going to cut that thing right out. And that's the way I look at it. I don't, it's very, very simple.
Okay, Department of Motor Vehicles, are they committing a crime? Are they committing fraud? What are they doing that's so bad?
Slavery, peonage. I mean, the America is a plantation. It is a slave plantation. And the one of the core aspects of that slave plantation is the Department of Motor Vehicles. The Department of Motor Vehicles is one of the most core aspects of the entire slave system of the United States of America. It is issuing licenses for something that you absolutely positively do not need any sort of license for. They share all of their information with the police. The police, so the way that a police interaction goes is you have a certificate of title for your car. What that means is you've donated your car to the state via the Department of Motor Vehicles. The state really owns the car and you're just kind of using it or renting it. That's essentially how it works. Then you have the driver's license, which you don't need at all. It's the biggest fucking joke in the world. You don't need a license to drive a car. It's ridiculous. And then, so what happens is you get this certificate of title, you get the driver's license. Now, what's happened is that when you get that driver's license, you've now contracted into a private foreign corporation called State of California. State of California is located in the District of Columbia. The process of naturalization from 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A23 explains naturalization is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So the way that nationality and citizenship actually works is that when you confer that you live in state of California, which is actually located in Washington, D.C., you now naturalize as a citizen of state of California. People who live in state of California have to abide by certain traffic laws. The definition of the word traffic actually means commercial travel. So what happens is the police are driving around and they're issuing people breach of contract lawsuits. Everything that a police officer can give you is it's a micro lawsuit. It's a complaint, just like all the complaints that I'm filing against the big, it even says complaint right on it. It's a complaint, which is a lawsuit, because you breached the contract of the people who are, if you are naturalized into state of California, which is in the District of Columbia, you've agreed to follow the laws of that club. Because you've gone above the posted speed limit, you've breached the contract of which you originally signed into when you sent in your car's title for license and registration, and you got your registration tags and you got your driver's license. When you get rid of the driver's license and you get rid of the certificate of title and you get rid of the registration and you send it all in and you say, destroy everything, burn it to the ground and send me proof or I'm going to sue you, which is what I'm doing right now. I've already sent everything in. And I already turned in my driver's license and everything else. Now, the thing is that I no longer live in state of California. State of California is a private for-profit corporation located in the District of Columbia. Yeah. So the thing is that now, if the police try to issue me tickets, they can't. Because the thing is that They can only issue me a breach of contract complaint based off of a previous contract. When you no longer have any of those previous contracts, they can no longer write a complaint because the complaint has to be based off of some previous contract, and then you've now breached that contract. So the DMV is the ultimate naturalization scam. They're getting everyone in the entire country to naturalize into these false states, such as state of California, state of New Mexico, state of Texas, state of Utah, state of Washington, state of New York, state of Florida. All of those names that I just mentioned are all physically located in the District of Columbia. And those particular locations, of which you naturalize into via the DMV, have traffic laws. And that is the state traffic laws that you'll see in each individual state. Those state traffic laws do not apply to people who live in the unincorporated state. Those traffic laws apply to people who naturalize, which means that they confer nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever of these false corporate states on themselves by the process of getting a driver's license and sending in their certificate of title. And the police essentially are driving around, and they're basically a private security force that works for state of California, which is in Washington, D.C. And they basically pull over cars that are essentially owned property of state of California, which is located in Washington, D.C. And they issue micro lawsuits that are basically lawsuits that state you've breached this particular contract. And because you've breached this particular contract, there's now going to be consequences. And that is essentially the entire breakdown of how our system works between the DMV and the police. That wouldn't happen. Voter registration is also tied into all this. It's a huge portion of this whole scam voluntary system that we have. Voter registration is also part of the information that goes into the police databases, because California upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever when you sign up for voter registration. So voter registration and the DMV are two areas that are very, very much I would like to burn to the ground. And not in some violent thing. It's a peaceful thing, because these are very small pieces of the overall puzzle, very small pieces of the overall foreign federal corporation. And I don't really have much of a problem with the whole corporation as a whole, the whole government as a whole. I only have a problem with some very key points, such as the 14th Amendment, which was never properly ratified. I definitely, in my lifetime, will do everything in my power to make sure that the 14th Amendment is destroyed. In my lifetime, I will do everything in my power to destroy the Department of Motor Vehicles. In my lifetime, I will do everything in my power to destroy voter registration. These are the three areas that are the key areas. And if these three things were eliminated, you could leave the entire government intact the way it is right now as we speak, and the entire country would explode and flourish in the most beautiful way, and we would have our Renaissance, and we would have our, all our good stuff. It's sort of like in Star Wars where they fly into that duct, at the end, and they hit that one particular center console thing, and it kind of blows out the whole thing. That's kind of but that's not really how it works. Like you eliminate the 14th Amendment, the DMV, and the voter registration, and you're left with an organization that can do everything else that it's doing right now, and it's not really harmful anymore, in my opinion. So it's very simple. The 14th Amendment, Congress in 1967 already said the 14th Amendment was never properly ratified. So it's not even a matter of getting rid of the 14th Amendment. It's simply a matter of just showing people and proving that it's already been gotten rid of. It's actually already gone, which is really, really simple. So the 14th Amendment is what split, what created the U.S. citizen category. A U.S. citizen is somebody who lives in Washington, D.C. and works for the government as a paid or voluntary employee or officer of the U.S. government. And everyone thinks that the definition of U.S. citizen means somebody who lives within the territorial boundaries of the 50 states or the U.S. territories, which is entirely false. Getting rid of the 14th Amendment would eliminate the U.S. citizen category entirely. The U.S. citizen category was born from the 14th Amendment. So if you get rid of the 14th Amendment, then you get rid of the U.S. citizen category, which cleans up 80% of all the issues we have in this country. Then, I mean, really, if you really want to make it even simpler, if you got rid of the 14th Amendment, you wouldn't even need to get rid of voter registration and the DMV, because people would no longer physically be able to naturalize into Washington, D.C. like that. That whole mechanism would explode, and it would no longer exist if the 14th Amendment was removed. But I mean, you gotta have something to fight, hasn't he? So it's just kind of one of those things,
People born before 1967 still naturalized themselves into U.S. citizenship after that.
No. So the Congress talked about this in a congressional hearing. The 14th Amendment was actually released in 1871. But in 1967, Congress spoke on the record about how the 14th Amendment is a sham, and it's actually like they actually call it like they have some strong words for it, brother. They call it like a full blown. I mean, I gotta look it up now. I got it here. It's pretty strong language that they had to say about it. Nothing good. They say that it is a possible tool of usurpation. And they say that it was never ratified by 3/4 of the required states. And that's from the Congressional Record, volume 113, part 12, page, I think it's 15641, June 18th, 1967. So, yeah, the 14th Amendment, it doesn't even exist. It's actually even easier to handle than what people think. It doesn't even exist. It's just a complete illusion that it exists. It doesn't exist at all. If you get rid of the 14th Amendment, then what happens is the police vanish, the U.S. citizen status vanishes, the CIA vanishes, the Federal Reserve vanishes, the FBI vanishes. Really, all you have left is just the government, which is fine. They can stay. The sheriff's office. And there is no U.S. citizens anymore. It doesn't exist. You only have state citizens at that point. So at that point, you wouldn't be able to naturalize the way that the definition of naturalization is, where you can just say that you live in Washington, D.C. or a corporation located in Washington, D.C. and then poof, you're located in Washington, D.C. That whole mechanism only exists because of the 14th Amendment. If you get rid of the 14th Amendment, then at that point, everything flips back. Like there wouldn't even be speed limits on the roads if you got rid of the 14th Amendment. Literally. They would have to go down and take all the speed limit signs down. Seriously, I'm not kidding. The speed limit signs only exist because of the U.S. citizen category. If there was no U.S. citizen category, then you wouldn't have speed limit signs. There would be no taxation. I mean, literally. I mean, you want to talk about like the easy button, like what you see at Staples? They have the easy button.
Yep.
If you get rid of the 14th Amendment, which doesn't mean get rid of it, it means it's already gotten rid of. You just have to get people to realize that it's already gone. I mean, you're talking full blown reboot. You're talking like 1776 instantly. Buying power of it's all gold and silver coin. You can work at McDonald's flipping burgers 20 hours a week. You could have like 5 kids, big house, 3 brand new cars, bicycles, jet skis, 4 or 5 vacations a year. I mean, there'd be, the sheriff's office. It'd be like the Wild West. Local sheriff tips his hat. How you doing, sheriff? Maybe he's got a deputy. If 2 guys want to shoot each other, then the sheriff would just kind of oversee that. Make sure nobody else gets hurt. Take it out in the back, boys. That's the kind of world that you would have if you just got rid of something that already doesn't exist. It's actually very, very simple. Very simple.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've got to go read the 14th Amendment now. I'm curious. So I got some procedural questions, like people in our group that were working on stuff.
Yeah.
That I'd love to just run by you. Actually, so the first one is, how could we buy a house or property without any sort of capital up front using negotiable instruments? Is there an easy way to just make sort of a cash offer on a house and then perform proper duties and buy land or a house?
The answer is yes, of course, but you're gonna have to litigate to get that done. There's no way.
Okay.
Litigation is for sure 100% the only way that's going to get done. But yeah, you can do that. It's really easy because you got to think, what's the definition of the word cash? It took me like 8 months to figure this out.
Is that just
do you know the definition of the word cash?
Transferable currency?
No, so I had to develop it myself because I couldn't find the definition that was suitable for anything. So the definition that I've developed myself is it's a negotiable instrument that is endorsed payable to the bearer. That's cash. It's just a negotiable instrument that whoever holds it holds the value, which means payable to bearer. It doesn't have a name on it. And you can move it around and anyone who possesses it to be payable to them. It's sort of like when you look at the old gold certificates and silver certificates from way back in the day, which I spent a lot of time looking at those. There's a couple of Instagram groups that they collect and sell old currencies, which is really cool. By the way, I highly recommend that people follow those auctions. They're usually auctions. I think one of them is like HA Currency, I think, which is an auction house. Great stuff, really good stuff. I post a lot of their stuff. So if you follow me and you look at my story, you'll see all the different currencies and all the different currency accounts that I follow. So let's say you have an old gold certificate. It'll say right on it, payable to bearer, 10 gold coins. So anyone who possesses this thing, this piece of paper, this negotiable instrument, they can go and they can exchange it for 10 gold coins. It's payable to the bearer. Bearer is the person who bears the negotiable instrument, who presents it. So instead of saying payable to the bearer, you could say payable to the presenter, or payable to the person who brings this to the counter, or payable to the person who decides they want to cash this in, or whatever, however you want to say it, right? So cash is a physical negotiable instrument. So it has to be in physical form, and it would be a negotiable instrument that is payable to the bearer. Something is payable to the bearer. It could be like 5 cherry pies. A coupon is technically cash because it says right on there, the bearer is entitled to 2 cherry pies, right? So if you think about it, technically speaking, a coupon is cash. It's a negotiable instrument. So I could sell the damn thing to somebody else. They can go get it, that is in physical form, that is payable to the bearer. Something is exchangeable when you give somebody else that particular physical item. Okay. So the application itself, the actual physical application that you're going to be signing for credit or whatever, when you sign it, it's now cash. It is now a negotiable instrument that is payable to bearer. However you endorse it depends on how you endorse it, but pretty much it's a physical instrument. It's physical or electronic, but it's still considered physical in the way it works. That is negotiable. That is payable to the bearer. And so what happens is it is a cash transaction once you sign the credit documentation, and that's kind of how it works. You say it's a. I mean, they're never going to get it. I mean, the thing is you're never going to find anyone that's going to understand that. So that's why I say you have to litigate, because you're just never going to find anyone that will do that or understand that. They're all going to think you're crazy. They're all going to think you're a con artist. They're all going to think you're psychopathic. And then, but I'll tell you what, man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to drag these people into court and just see the look on their face when they realize that this is all real. They're gonna. I mean, I am not kidding when I say this. This is like, for some people out there, for a lot of people out there who have been maybe struggling for a long time, or they've made all their money through financial organizations, selling loans and stuff like that. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, like, suicide. This is like suicide shit. This is like they go home and they look in the mirror and they're like, I've been selling all these people into slavery for 25 years and I had no idea about it. And they just take some pills and they're gone. This is some nasty stuff. This is nasty stuff. So what happens is that when you start to talk about this stuff and you start to move forward on this stuff and you start to go down this path, you get very strong emotional reactions. People totally flip out, freak out, And a lot of that comes down to like emotional defense mechanisms, right? There's also a lot of people who get really excited. They're like, well, shit, I can go out and buy a mansion now. Yeah, well, yeah, you can. So you're rolling the dice, every time you do any of this stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, the easiest and simplest thing to do is you issue your orders. You expect that they're going to think you're totally batshit crazy. And then you just prepare litigation. You prepare litigation before you even get an answer back. And you just think in your head, 99.99% chance they're not going to do anything at all. And they're going to flat out openly refuse to follow the law and your orders, soliciting assistance from the court because there's somebody who has not followed the law. And you are going to use the power of the court to make sure that the law is followed, because we live in a country where there needs to be law and order. Same way that the courts actually believe that, and the judges actually believe that. Fine with me. I got no problem with that at all whatsoever. So the thing is that the judges are not the kind of people to try and have emotional opinions about the law. They are people that are simply trying to follow the law to the best of their ability, right? So for example, you could even say the same thing with getting a ticket from, if I got a ticket tomorrow from any police officer, I would want to motion the court into discovery as quickly as possible. And I want to know every single contract under the sun, moon, and stars that allowed this particular complaint for breach of contract to exist, to the point where I'll even pay it. I'm not really going to pay it. I'm just going to endorse it. But I'll even pay the damn thing. I'll even pay the damn thing if you can tell me all the different contracts that are active that I may not know about, that allows you to write this breach of contract. Because the thing is that if I can get my hands on a bunch of secret contracts that I wasn't aware that I had, now I can go out and I can clarify all those or kill them or write up novations. Novation is a change in a contract. So I'm going to rewrite all those contracts. And then now from that point forward, now they really can't write me a ticket anymore, because now that I'm going to go out there and on all of them. And if they try to prevent me from writing a novation, if they try to prevent me from rewriting a contract, if they try to prevent me from leading a contract, then we just go straight into litigation. Now, the thing about litigation is this. It's very, very simple. I write orders, I write a novation, and I send it to you. You have two choices. You can either follow my orders and that's it, and we can end off and go our separate ways and live our happy lives, or you can not follow my orders. Now, if you decide to go down route B, what's going to happen is that in my mind, the way it works is you're now wasting my time. Now, the longer and more you waste my time, the bigger the damages become. So I'm going to make it more painful and more horrible and more dangerous the more of my time that you waste. And I'm going to do it all through litigation. And I think that is the missing element for everyone that's doing what we're doing, because they just simply send in more and more and then cry at home because no one ever responds to anything. That's not. And then after 6 months of sending shit in and calling, they discharge their account, and then they dance around and set off fireworks because they feel like they have a big win, which is cool. I was doing for a long time. Don't get me wrong. So I get it. But a big win for me is I issued the orders on damages, and those damages are going to get worse and worse and worse the longer that you waste my time and the longer that you don't follow my orders. And I'm okay with that. Because they're not paying me right now, but they're going to pay me for all of my time. So the thing is that I'm no longer emotional or upset or angry about the fact that they don't respond to anything that I have to say. It's okay. It's okay. If you don't respond to my orders, I'm going to get paid. I don't care. So now what I'm doing is I'm going out and I'm filing all these applications with all these different credit agencies. I started just anybody who would give me an application, just give it to me, right? And I'm filling out all these applications and I'm doing all this stuff and all this, and then they say you're denied. And I go, great, thank you so much. Can you send me a denial letter? Of course. So I'm collecting all these denial letters, and I'm going to sue all of them. Everyone's getting sued. So it's it's just a process. Orders, you get some kind of a denial. Now you litigate because the denial is ridiculous. None of those denials are real. So it's a breach of contract. It's a breach of fiduciary duties. Those are the easy ones. Breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duties. From there, you have to actually do work. Now you got to figure out, okay, what else can I hit them with? Like one of the ones I'm working on now, they're going to get enticement into slavery charges, which is 20 years in prison. They're going to get peonage, which is 20 years in prison. Laundering negotiable instruments, which is like 5 years in prison. Use of an assumed name, which is like 1 or 2 years in prison. These things are just going to get uglier and uglier and uglier. I mean, by the third or fourth lawsuit, it's going to be like just charges. And it's not just bullshit charges either. This is like, I'm really trying to like solidify these things and try to make it like very, very realistic and like very, very fitting and like not make it just some laundry list, but it's got to be real. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Will you send, like if you resolve a lawsuit, will you send it to the next person that you're suing and say, hey, this is how it turned out last time, FYI?
You can go on the Pacer app. And you can actually look at any documentation filed on any lawsuit. And you can even type in subjects, let's say negotiable instruments. You can type it into Pacer, boom, it'll come up, it'll show you everything. And it'll charge you 10 cents per page for each document. But you can go into any of my court cases and you can look at every single filing that anyone's done on either side, on any side of the fence, every single filing of the case. You can go into Pacer and you can see every single filing, and then you can click on the little PDF button and it costs 10 cents a page, and you can actually pull it up, download it, print it. You can do whatever you want. It's all public information. Yes, the answer is yes. I mean, even on the lawsuits, you can put on my website, I have a current and previous litigation section. So I'm also making a whole section of my website where it's like, we're going to put each case, we're going to put a brief overview of the case. We're going to put personal remarks by me. And then we're also going to have downloadable PDFs of at least the initial documents. I'm not going to take everything off of Pacer and put it on my website. It's just a lot of work. But the initial complaint, the initial civil cover letter or whatever, and the initial summons and everything, that's going to go. Like right now, my first case, it's all available. I can do a screen share and just show it to you really quick. Mm-hmm. It's all available on my website. So if you go to current and previous litigation and you scroll down just a bit here, I have some information about Pacer. This is Pacer here. You can sign up for free, and then you can file electronically actually for your own cases. And then you can actually look up any case at all. Pacer is the federal system. For state cases, you have to go to the individual state systems, but because we're doing negotiable instruments almost exclusively, very simple for us. We don't need a bunch of different logins for a bunch of different things. So here's our first case, and if you click on this link here, it'll take you to the full deal. There's a civil cover sheet. And the thing is, all these documents are all on Pacer. It's all public. All court cases are all public, pretty much. So you can pretty much do whatever you want. Now, let's say, for example, they want to do a settlement and they want to pay millions of dollars. And they say, just take it down. I mean, if you decide you want to settle and they ask that you take down the information because they don't want it on the internet anymore, then that would be up to you to decide at that point if it's something you want to do. That's why I like the idea of blowing this all up to as high as I can be right at the beginning. Like right at the beginning of every single court case, I'm going to send out massive email blast to 35,000 people. I'm going to post it all on my website. I mean, by the time they settle, all of my cases are going to be so prevalent on the internet that I can take it down off of my website and I can stop talking about it in order to achieve some sort of massive settlement amount. But it's never coming off the internet. You're never going to scrub this off the internet. It's going to be here forever, and that's kind of like my plan, So you guys can look at mine. here, and you guys can get some ideas as to how you can structure yours. And then obviously I'll be doing more and more and more of these and posting them as we go. And I actually was just on a show yesterday where I actually broke this whole thing down section by section. It was pretty fun. And
so here's a question that's coming up for me. Is there anything you could say, like to the bank or utility company in your letters of instructions where you threaten them enough, like, hey, if you don't comply, I'm going to file this lawsuit against you, and here's what would happen, without having to file the lawsuit? Or are they all just sort of baiting you into filing a suit?
No, there's no fucking way. I mean, I got tons of success stories. I've got people who have fucking revolving credit lines that discharge. We've got all sorts of good stuff. I think those are all just flukes. I mean, I really believe that. I've discharged so many freaking cars. I can't even. There was probably 2 months where all I was doing every single day was just posting people smiling with their titles. Mm-hmm. And you can go back on my social media. You can go on my fan art and submission page on my website, and you can scroll down and you'll see all those photos. That's from probably like, a year ago I was doing that, or maybe like 8 months ago. It's all hit or miss. It's all hit or miss. I believe once you start suing these things and once you start to make it so horrible and so uncomfortable to get sued by you, by the fourth or fifth or sixth time that you start suing people, especially you start winning large damages, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this so painful. The fact that I had to file this lawsuit, the fact that I had to go back and forth with you, the fact that it took all this time is going to make the damages and the pain just exponentially worse when they realize that the pain that they're going to experience by not following your orders is dramatically higher than the pain that they would feel if they just simply followed your orders. I think at that point, you're not going to have to file any more lawsuits, but you have to win 5 or 7 lawsuits to get to that point. This is just my theory. This is just my theory in my head. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be, it could also be a situation where that's just the way it is. And if you don't sue, you're never going to get anywhere. And that's just the way it's always going to be. And they just don't care. And they'll do, that's also a very strong possibility as well. But I mean, we're not getting into these things for, $2,000 either. I mean, we're looking at like 15 to 100 million on every single one of these. And MX Black Cards, Infinite Money, 15 million. Yeah. So then, exactly. So it's like, do you want to learn how to file this stuff and then work these cases for maybe 3 to 6 months to get a win to make $15 to $100 million? If you don't want to, fine. I mean, I do. I'm the first in line, and I'm excited to be here. So, it's the idea of winning 2 or 3 cases a year and banking $250 million. That sounds pretty good, because you also got to think is that a lot of cases you're just waiting around a lot of times. So let's say I want to win 3 or 4 cases a year. I mean, if you were to add up all the time that I spent building cases and running cases and winning cases, I mean, 3 or 4 cases a year, you're looking at, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a year of work to make $250 million a year. I mean,
if you learn how to do it and you can do it successfully, I mean, it's amazing.
It took me a long time to get here. Obviously that's the exciting thing about the pro se litigant course, because what I want to do is I want to take the 2 years it took me to get here, and I want to shrink that down to 30 days. So in 30 days, you can be up and running, and you can be filing lawsuits and doing what I do in 30 days.
Wow. What kind of help do you need?
I'd like to get a hold of people who are doing pro se litigation. Like I did a show with Dr. Andy Kaufman recently, and he's actually doing some pro se litigation. I'd like to connect with more people who are doing pro se litigation, because I need to build a team of people. I'm already working on it. Joe Lustica, who I've done a lot of shows with, he's involved in some litigation, but he's just kind of lost as to what he's supposed to do. So I'm kind of helping him do that a little bit. And then obviously the pro se litigant course, the whole point of the pro se litigant course is I want to create a large team of pro se litigant people who are involved. There's 2 different types of attorneys. There's an attorney at law and an attorney in fact. An attorney at law is your typical bar card holding attorney. They are what's called officers of the court. They actually work for the court. They don't work for you. And they represent you in a court of law because you are incapable. And essentially the way it works is when you take on a lawyer, the way the court views that is you're either a child or a person of unsound mind, which means retard. So an attorney in fact is completely different from that. An attorney in fact does not require any licensing, does not require any schooling, does not require anything at all whatsoever. All it requires is a contract. The contract is called a power of attorney. The power of attorney basically breaks down the fiduciary responsibilities of the attorney in fact, right? Now, attorney in fact cannot represent you in a court of law. They can assist you to present yourself. So what I want to do is I want to build a team of people where we help people to present themselves in a court of law, and we are the counsel for that particular person. But they're basically in the driver's seat. Now, the way this is going to work is, and I've already got it all written down on my website, you hire us, which we already have a bunch of clients, and we got a bunch of things going right now. You hire us, we train you, we get you rolling, we back you up, we run everything. And then by the end, especially if we win, you probably know enough now at that point to actually run pro se litigation yourself. So our clients come onto our team. Mm-hmm. So we have a client. So we have leads, and then we make them a client, and then the client goes through the process, and then now they work with us, and they work for W&W, Williams and Williams. So that's the whole process that I've developed, that I'm currently testing and currently working with. And I mean, obviously it takes a long time to run client through all this. It takes like 6 months or more. So we're like in the process of doing that with some clients right now. And in the future, I want it to be a self-generating group that gets larger and larger and larger based off of the clients becoming part of the team. And a lot of it's going to all come down to the pro se litigant course. That's the missing element. Once I get that course done and release it, all the new clients are going to go through the course, and then they're going to do it. So you learn it, do it with us, and then you join the team. And then we're just going to have shitloads of people going through the course, and then they become clients, and then they do it, and then now they join the team, and now they help other people do it. So it's going to be a cyclic, you know, and that's basically
toroidal
system. So that's basically what I'm doing and what the plan is, essentially, in a nutshell.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down. That sounds great.
So Dr. Andy Kaufman was a huge connection for me.
I saw that one.
That was a really good connection for me.
He knows a lot. I was surprised.
He knows tremendous. I mean, if I could find the guy I'm working with, Joey Kimbrough, he has a lot more experience actually in there. And he's actually won a bunch of cases, which is why like I'm mainly working with Joey right now. But guys like Andy that are like hot coming into the scene, and they're just, you know, like they just know so much, and they're just coming in on such a strong position. I mean, there's no way Andy's going to lose. I mean, it's like, if this was sports betting, I mean, I just put all my money on him, because it's just like, there's no way in hell. There's just no way in hell. Absolutely no way in hell. I mean, his stuff is so good. He's just new on the scene. I'm new on the scene too, actually, technically. So Joey's actually the guy who's not new on the scene. I go to him for a lot of things. So you know, I want to just get some more experience under my belt. I want to file my own lawsuits. I want to see Andy go a little bit farther. I want to see Joe Lusko go a little bit farther and learn more about his. He's in appeals court right now, but he's just lost. He doesn't have a clue what's going on. But he's winning. He's just kind of winning in a way. He's just kind of in the dark with it. So finding more guys that have been pro se litigants and they've actually won cases and stuff like that, even if it's like totally not related to what I do, that's kind of more or less what I think I probably need right now. And then obviously just getting on shows and just sharing the message is also really important to me. I think, I go on shows all the time. I mean, I've been on probably 70 or 80 shows. So it's just, I like sharing the information, especially to groups of people that would be very happy to receive it, which a lot of these like health, wellness, success type, spiritual type shows always are very happy to receive the information, very excited. So those kinds of shows are always really good. And then just sharing the message. Really, it's all
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, I've got some ideas that or as I come up with ideas as well, I'll run them by you. I had another question. There's something on one of your profiles about you're an art appraiser. And
Yeah.
I heard someone talking about, I heard an artist talking about he went and got a loan and used his art as collateral. He appraised it. And then that was the sort of the value that was backing securing the loan. And then he, I guess, didn't repay the loan, so they took all of his art. And he was like, that was how I sold my art.
Yeah. That's exactly why I have a whole bunch of different like fake hilarious, like I'm a CPA, right? A CPA for thick cucumber accounting or something. I forget the name of it. I just kind of made it up. So the term CPA, which everyone knows the term CPA, it means certified public accountant, right? Well, you can say you're a certified private accountant and it's still CPA. So you can tell people you're a CPA. You don't need, you need a license to be a CPA, but you don't need a license to be a CPA. You see, you need a license to be a certified public accountant. You don't need a license to be a certified private accountant. You can say you're a CPA. I'm a CPA. Is it public or private? You'll never know. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of goofiness with that kind of stuff. I do a lot of art appraiser. It's like, look, it's a biggest joke in the fucking world. Art appraiser. You gotta be kidding me. You know what I mean? It's like practically like fiat. It's like bring in your art and I'll tell you, basically creating currency out of thin air as an art appraiser. Yeah, it's literally a joke. But yeah, I'm an art appraiser. Hell yeah, why not?
Nice. Yeah, I was
bring
thinking
your doodles and I'll slap a $20,000. I'll slap a $20,000 value on it, and then now we can, go get a loan on it. You know what I mean?
One thing that I really appreciate about what you did was, I mean, your brand, One Stupid Fuck, is just like, at first, when I first encountered it, I was like, what, who is this guy? Like, what is going on? And then I kind of understand that it sounds like your goal was to make this stuff approachable by having just enough tomfoolery in there that people were like, it relieves the stress around it in some way. It makes it digestible in some sense. Is that intentional?
Yes. Two reasons. First off, that's exactly what it was, and then also to lower the demographic, the age demographic. Because when I first started, the average age demographic of somebody who was interested in any of this information was like 70.
Really?
Like no joke. Like literally 85. Hardcore patriotic type older people who were pissed off about where the country's going and they wanted to do something about it. This, that, all the assemblies and stuff like that were all the ones that I had ever seen. Everybody involved was 65 plus minimum. So part of it was bringing that demographic way down as far as I can get it.
So how did it sounds like the One Stupid Fuck was strategic. What was your background your skill set that allowed you to sort of develop that as a strategy?
So I had been, I made all my money previously, not a lot of it, but I was successful. I mean, it wasn't like I was broke, but not like not like millions or like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands. But I was very successful in marketing and sales and paid advertising, specifically paid advertising and design. And I did a lot of demographic work. I would do a lot of surveys and I would do like demographic studies. I love people. So it's just kind of like natural that I would get into demographic studies. And after doing that for 10 years and having, a pretty good success with it, and in my own companies and my own brands and everything, I really wanted to do a self-deprecating humor brand. I had never really seen hardly anybody do it. And I just wanted to do it. I just decided, I was like, I want to create an entire brand based off of self-deprecating humor and just total craziness. And so I bought onestupidfuck.com like a year before I used it, and I wasn't even sure what I was going to do with it yet.
Oh, wow.
And then when I started to learn all this stuff, that's when I was like, okay, great. This is what I'm going to do with One Stupid Fuck. And then that's how One Stupid Fuck was born.
It's almost like you knew you were going to need it But you didn't even know yet what for.
No, I knew I was going to do a brand, and I knew it was going to be One Stupid Fuck, but I had no clue what it was going to be. No idea. Yeah. How about that? Pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah. I get into a lot of precognition and how we experience reality, and that stuff fascinates me. And so whenever I hear that, it's like, oh yeah, you knew already, but you didn't know it.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, not even a drop. It was just so yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Anything we haven't touched on that I haven't asked you about that you want to share?
No, it's great. No, I don't know your demographics super well or anything. I mean, if at any point in the future you guys want me to come back and break down some of my litigation in a lot of detail and do more like a technical talk, let me know, because that's kind of where a lot of things are headed. That's what I did yesterday on Brandon Thomas's show. It'll probably be released in like maybe 2 weeks. It's called Expanding Reality. So,
he's in our group too.
Yeah, exactly. So, every month I'm going on his show now, and we've done, I think, three shows so far. So we're doing one every month. And, the one that we just shot yesterday was, a full, very detailed breakdown of the entire litigation that I showed you earlier. And, it's my first time on a show kind of breaking all of that down in a lot of detail and explaining in a way that I think is very empowering to people, and it gives people the green light to go and do it themselves. Like one of the big things that gets it, the term allegation, the definition of the word allegation, right? So your first time you file a lawsuit, when you first file your first complaint, you're only filing allegations. Now, the definition of the word allegation means setting forth that of which you intend to prove later. So you don't need to post all the things and all this, and you got to attach 487 documents, and you got to have all the laws. It's an allegation is just a discovery, which is a different time period of the lawsuit, right? That happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and it breaches the contract, and it does this, and it does this, and then you don't need to attach anything or do anything until later. They're going to respond to that. There's going to be some response, some back and forth there. And then once you go into discovery, that's when you're going to just submit the evidence and stuff like that. So it doesn't need to be this huge front-loaded thing that's also horrible and impossible just to get things rolling. And another thing is you could do in propria pauperis, which is that if you don't have the money to file the lawsuit, you can. It's a petition that you attach to the front of the lawsuit. Can I do it as a pauper? And then what happens is that the court fees and everything come out of the lawsuit later when it's won or when there's a settlement. And that's something I'm going to teach in the pro se litigation course, because anyone who can't afford filing fees or whatever, they should still be able to get into litigation and get all this stuff done. So that's going to be part of the course as well. How to litigate with no money down.
There you go.
Yeah,
yeah, wonderful.
So it's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah. So that's it. For sure. We'll have you back on, and we'll try to take angles right where it's supplementary to all the other stuff you're doing. Instead of being redundant, we'll see what we can keep adding to the public body of work for people.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's, I think the pro se litigant course is going to be when a lot more of that's going to happen. Like, for example, when I released the contract killer course, the first one, I was just going on shows and explaining all the basics over and over and over and over and over and over. Yeah. We go into, naturalization, nationality and citizenship and taxation. I must have explained that on a show, 50 times, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it took like a long time. It took more than a year of me going on shows and stuff like that, and people watching it, and tens of thousands of people signing up before I started to do shows where we were having sort of like what you just said, more in-depth conversations, more new angles, it wasn't just me on a stage just giving a presentation, a PowerPoint, essentially. And now we're getting to the point now where it's just constantly going on shows, and there's just new things to talk about and new angles I don't explain the basics. I explain the basics almost less often than I explain that, like what this show is, right? There's going to be kind of like a lag time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And then all of a sudden, everyone's going to be doing litigation under this unlimited start. And it's just going to become completely normal that if there's an issue that you run into in your life, or a police officer steps all over your rights and he's disrespectful and he's not doing a good job as a police officer, because you can do a good job as a police officer. You don't need to be doing that stuff. Protect and serve and make people feel good and make women feel safe. And that's, we're not going to come after those people. We're not going to file litigation on those people because there's no reason to. That's ridiculous. It's insane. And we're not going to condone people who use that technology to go after people like that. But if you're trying to get a bill of exchange exchanged, or you're trying to get something handled, or you're trying to get, a tax bill discharged or something like that, which is all perfectly legal, and what you're trying to do is not being done, it's just going to become normal. You just, okay, no problem. You're just going to type up a little complaint. You're going to file with the pacer or file it into the state court, and you just forget about it. And then it takes them a month on, and then now you're in discovery, and then now you're going to get damages, and you're going to get whatever it is that you originally asked for. And that's the end of the story. And there's no reason to be upset. There's no reason to be angry. There's no reason to freak out. There's no reason to cry. There's no reason to be anxious. It's just no reason. And then as more and more people start doing it, then now what's going to happen is those issues that we had to deal with, such as promissory notes and bills of exchange, it's just not going to happen anymore, because they're going to know, like, everyone's doing this, and now we're paying damages, and it's a nightmare, and like, we have to stop doing this, and we have to start to educate our people on how this works. And then at that point, the next generation of people will be able to send in their stuff, and it will get accepted every single time, and they don't have to go through litigation and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
we
sense.
have to be the ones to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. The burden to be carried for the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't find it to be a burden, because I think it's very empowering. At first it's overwhelming, but then it becomes very, very empowering. It's extremely, because when you do litigation, by the time you move into discovery, it's basically like, imagine the court system handing you I said this yesterday on Brandon's show. I thought it was so good. Imagine the court issuing you a badge, a gun, and a shovel. That's literally what happens when you move into discovery. You can subpoena people. You can subpoena external people. You can subpoena them. You can put them in prison if they don't follow your orders. At that point, you can start putting people in prison. So that's contempt of court. If you motion the court to give an order to compel them to give you the documents and the information that you want, and they go, fuck you, we're not doing any of that, you can motion the court to contempt of court, and you can actually have a warrants issued for the arrest of the person that you're trying to get the orders complied with, and you can actually have them picked up by police and placed in a jail cell until they follow the orders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good, right?
It's what I mean, not necessarily a burden, but it's like when you look around and you realize that you're the responsible, you're the adult that's got to be in charge. And it's like, oh yeah, no one is doing this. I mean, these organizations and even the police to some degree, they don't really get it. And I don't really think I'm not like saying that. My brother's a cop, and I know cops, so I don't have a problem with cops, but there is sort of this runaway thing that's occurring that we do need to sort of lasso the situation before it gets any worse. And the way that we're going to lasso that is just to make sure that, the checks and balances are, it's not the police. Yeah. Well, should we wrap there? Seems like a good place to.
Sounds good, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, we'll be in touch, and I will.
When do you think when do you think you'll have this one? You'll need to clean it up. What do you think turnaround time on this will be?
Couple weeks usually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
because I'm going to share this with all my people. It'll be probably like 50,000, 60,000 people that I want to share this with. So
yeah, and I hope they get to know a little bit more about what you personally experienced going through this. Because there's a lot of like data, a lot of information, but there's also what it's like to walk through this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a lot of new things on this show that I've never covered before. A lot of new things. So that's always good. People like that.
Yeah. All right, man. Well,
I
Godspeed.
appreciate it, Derek.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.